Hello, everybody. Welcome along. My name is Benjamin Bloom. This is the Benjamin Bloom Football Channel. Please leave your bias at the door. And we are back on season review duty. How many have I got to do? 1, 2, 3. I've got 4 left in the Championship. We have been hammering it away. Stopped a little bit by the playoffs. But they're finished. Some England stuff to do. But we can get through a couple today, I'm sure. And the first one of those is going to be Nottingham Forest. We are going to be talking about Nottingham Forest's 2020-21 season. Nottingham Forest are very interesting, aren't they? Because in the kind of championship hierarchy, obviously they're a big club, aren't they? With a storied history. They've not been anywhere near the Premier League in a long time. And they're one of these teams that have tried to challenge and go against the parachute teams and maybe taken some financial risks, and they're absolutely riddled with chaos. Pretty much every season there's a firing. No one tends to go much longer than a year. We'll talk about that in the first part of the video as well, in terms of the management there. And they kind of look like they've got a good thing going, and then there's more chaos, and then it goes again and goes again, and you wonder when they'll either A, get it right, or B, the bubble bursts and the whole thing goes horribly wrong. And that's kind of where Forest have been now for a good few seasons, I would suggest. Several false dawns and lots of new managers. Anyway, we got to start with the collapse, because I say they often look like they've got a good thing going. Forest should no way have missed out on the playoffs last season under Sabri Lamucci, and it was a horrible run-in. There you go. I've put up the last 15 games at the top there. 18th in the form table over a 15-game sample, which is near enough a third of a season. So they were rubbish in playoff terms for the final third of the season. Look at those last, how many games have I got up there? 6. So 3 points in the last 6 games. All started with that 97th minute equaliser by Derby, didn't it? For goodness sake, in the East Midlands derby. And then, of course, the ridiculous last day switch around. Look at that down the bottom there. Swansea going above Forest on the last day. You can see the goal difference there is +8 for Forest and +9 for Swansea. And if I'm remembering my numbers correct, with about 30-35 minutes of the season to go, Forest had a 3-point lead and a 6-goal advantage. It was utterly madness on the last day. So I think there had been a gradual climb down for that last third of the season. The playoffs maybe would have papered over the cracks, or maybe they would have gone again. But then that one big disaster, and I guess at that point Lamucci was done, wasn't he? Whether he'd, quote, lost the dressing room or lost the higher-ups, whatever. Honestly, they probably would have been better off removing him then, given what they actually did go on to do in the summer. Let's have a look at a very, very busy summer window, as ever, for Forest. And we'll do the departures first, but let's just say this has been such a pattern for Forest, which must be maddening for their supporters. If I look at it as a neutral and think, well, you've got these players seem to have been managed by about 5 different managers and brought in by this one, and then some are kept, some are discarded, and the new guys come in. We know that cycle just very rarely works, do we? So anyway, the departures, obviously the big one, Cash to Aston Villa there. Up to the Premier League goes Matty Cash. I mean, really good bit of business to convert him to a right back and get 15 million. Need to sell in the Championship, FFP, parachutes, blah, blah, blah. Then, Exodus, look at that. Bridcut, Watson, Adoma, Benaluan, all on freeze. Walker and Pantilimon undisclosed. Interesting Walker, and we'll talk about, I suppose, about Brennan Johnson as well in terms of Forest's need for goals and possible use or not use of young players. And there you see Brennan Johnson loaned out to Lincoln. Yao Carvalho, my God, how much did they pay for him? Jordan Gabriel got promoted, didn't he, with Blackpool? Maybe not in the first team. And then, of course, there's always one, Thiago Silva to Olympiacos. We often get that link up, don't we, with Mr. Marianakis owning both clubs. Nuno da Costa. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 players there. Moving outwards, either on frees for fees or loans, etc. And you look down, and some played under Martin O'Neill, some played under Sabri Lamucci. Who was even before Martin O'Neill? Was it Karanka? Was it that soon? I can't even remember. There's been so many Forest managers, haven't they? Warburton, then Karanka, and then O'Neill and Keane, and then Lamucci, and now... Well, we'll talk about who's going to come in now. Anyway, look, all of those departures, big outs, but even more insane, look at the arrivals and look at the amount spent on some. So, as ever, these figures are from Transfermarkt. I know people like to get very pedantic about transfer fees when they probably, frankly, haven't got the slightest clue what they actually are or how they're paid over the course of time. So, as I always say, write Transfermarkt, a strongly worded letter showing your evidence, the deal memorandum that you have from the club, obviously signed off by the club's financial department if you want to debate them. We'll just go with the numbers and try and trust them as best we can. But look, Arta, Mbesa and McKenna for the thick end of sort of 12, 13 million there. Actually, probably even more when you add on the other bits and bobs. Yes, I will suggest Mbesa and McKenna 19 and 23, good value. But considering how little Arta ended up playing, okay, injuries permitting, not the best. Bakiru barely played, did he? Yanu, well, he's not going to last long. And then look at all these frees. Colback, Blackett, Taylor, Guerrero, Freeman then on loan, Knockout on loan, Christie on loan, Cafu on loan. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. I think I've counted 14 there. I might have miscounted anyway. Put it this way, as usual, loads of players coming in to a team that was, for the most part, 5th in the table for the previous season. Yes, you can make arguments that Tyler Blackett on a free, experience, only 26. Lyle Taylor, a few people were looking at him. That's his last big move, I guess. And then a couple of the loanees. Knockout's done it before, hasn't he? So has Freeman, particularly for QPR rather than Sheffield United. But still, look at the turnover. Where is the lineage through and links to style of play and all of this? It's very, very chaotic as ever. And let the chaos continue, because Lamucci is out after 4 games. You can see there those first 4, all defeats. A particularly awkward one to watch, we covered it on the channel, was at Huddersfield, wasn't it? And you could see really icy with, I think, Grabban and Lolly were left on the bench. And let's be very clear about how Lamucci's team functioned last season. It was very tight, good defensively. Samba, Worrell, Cash did really well, and Ribeiro the other side. A lot of reliance on Grabban and Lolly to get goals and assists and things of that nature up the top end of the pitch. Got a tune out of Amiobi, didn't he? And that was what it was built on, and you could see it all cracking, and it was an uncomfortable watch. Sky didn't do Paul Lamucci any favour. Lots of tight close-ups of his face, and I'm sitting there thinking, this guy's done. Something is not right at all here. Out he goes. In comes Chris Hughton. Chris Hughton, of course, is one of those guys that owners love. 2 championship promotions, one with Forest, one with Brighton. Very studious, comes across as very intelligent, very calm, experienced, knows what he wants. You're going to get quite pragmatic football, but on the basis of much of his work in the championship with Brighton and Newcastle, it's hard to argue with his record. The argument you can make, which is one that can play out in the future, is that other managers who are younger may have new ideas that may supersede what Hughton may have done at Newcastle. Let's be fair, at Newcastle, they were a giant that bashed their way through. A lot of good work was done at Brighton, you would have to suggest. I know a bit of money was spent there as well, but He took them really from one place to a completely different place and left the club in a wholly better situation than he found it. Not that it was in a bad situation, but it's now a getting established Premier League club at Brighton, isn't it? So, look, he's a good manager. The thing is, there's been, quote, good managers at Forest before, and they've either fallen out, not been given the time, or, well, the chaos surrounding them has not provided them with the best circumstances to be successful. Let's see how Chris Hughton's going to get on. An up and down star. For those, I'm not one of them, by the way, that believe in the new manager bounce. Well, maybe there is a little one there. Look, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So first 7 games, you can see 12 points from the first 7. Very good start, actually, from Houghton. And then 6 defeats in the next 7. One does have to concede. They played Brentford, who got promoted, Norwich, who got promoted, Watford, who got promoted, Swansea, who got to the playoff final, Bournemouth and Barnsley, who got to the playoff semi-finals, and Reading, who at that time in the season was quite a tricky fixture. So they kind of played their form, didn't they? Maybe you got a little tickle, even if I don't want to admit, in the, quote, new manager bounce. Got a little tickle from the initial reaction of the players who'd clearly been underperforming to be at the bottom of the league under the previous manager, Sabri Lamouchi. You say bounce, I say players, do your jobs. But then when the games got difficult, the results tailed off quite badly, and you can see over that 14 games. Look, they moved from a guaranteed relegation team to a team that was going to survive, but was still going to be in the bottom 6. Those 14 games had Forest 19th in the form table. A bit more of a Chris Hughton looking transfer window there. So not mass chaos of 14 in, 12 out or what have you. Just a few tweaks. And if this is going to be the case going forward for Forest, I'm sure, I mean, you tell me if you're a Forest fan watching, do you find these windows exciting when half a squad goes in and half goes out? This looks far improved, doesn't it? Glenn Murray, who's obviously a Chris Hughton stalwart, promoted with him at Blackburn, and his loan at Watford hadn't worked out. Kravinovic, who'd been promoted before again last season, in fact, for West Brom, sort of number 10, or, well, he was used in a deeper midfield position. James Garner, again, he was on loan at Watford, and that had not particularly worked out. A few people out, really. Derrickwere on a free, Clough on a free. Ianu, who, after his red card at Luton, never got back in. Guerrero out to Rayo Vallecano in Spain. So a little bit of tweakery, and look, very much a case of experienced players who've done it before, particularly Murray and Kravinovic with the promotions, and a good young loanee from Manchester United in James Garner. So a little tweak in January. The first chance Hughton really has. I suppose you could argue the Knockaert thing, was that in the works before Hughton took over? I can't remember. I'm sure Hughton arriving would have helped convince Knockaert, because Knockaert arguably played his best football under Chris Hughton. Anyway, a very impressive run. I can't say follows, because if you can see, I've picked it up from 15th of December before the window there. But after the run of hard games, brilliant from Forest. And again, if I'm going to use the number for Lamouchi, I can use it for Hughton. 15 games is a third of a season. Yes, I do understand they did play more games than anyone else in that top 6 form table. But still, 27 points up in those 15 games is mighty, mighty impressive. 7 wins in there as well. And look at the teams they beat Wednesday. Preston, Millwall, Coventry, Wickham, Blackburn, Rotherham, etc. So if you weren't at it, Forest were beating you at that point. You know, teams that ended up finishing in the bottom 6, or maybe the likes of sort of Preston and Millwall, were not in good runs at that point. And then defeats, only a couple there. One against Swansea, who got to the playoff final, didn't they? And one at home to Warnock and Middlesbrough. But a very, very good run. It says impressive rise to 14th as well. And it honestly looked like Forest were going to finish in the top half at that point. Forgive me, I can't tell you how many games there are left. 15. I guess probably about 10 or 12 left. We'll have a look on the next slide. But looked like Houghton was starting to get it right. However, for whatever reason, here comes the drop-off. There you go. Sorry, 13 games to go. So they were 14th with 33 games played. And just a bit of a disappointing end to the season. Beneath that minimum we always talk about of 1 point per game. Generally, below 1 point per game in the Championship, you're going down, aren't you? And the survival number, we always say, I always say 45 to survive, and you know that would have done you this season. So my standard for a relegation team is going below the point per game. So ergo, we can probably call this relegation form for the last 13 games. Only Bristol City and Derby were worse, and look, they were a lot worse by a factor of double. In fact, Forest doubling those points. So, yeah, and I'd invite comment as to what went wrong towards the end of the season. Pass, really. Things dying off, loads and loads of draws. There's a run very clearly of 6 draws in 9 games as well. And we can talk about the Houghton style in the summary and when pragmatism isn't quite working. We saw that with Lamucci as well. You do get that tail off and tight wins turn into draws and worse still defeats, don't they? So there's the final table, and Forest a disappointing 17th position, especially given with 13 games to go. They were up in 14th, looking upwardly mobile. And a couple of bad runs for Houghton, that one not long after he'd taken over and the one to end the season. I suppose if you're a Forest fan, you want to focus on that big 27 points in 15 games run. Look, 52, it's not the worst total ever. You do have the likes of Luton having a really good season. Preston had a strong finish, didn't they? Stoke kind of dipped down. Blackburn dipped down and finished reasonably strong. Coventry went on a big run. Birmingham went on a big run. All of those teams around Forest, maybe dropping them a position or two lower and taking advantage of Forest's poor end to the season. Depends, your glass half full, half empty. Where are your standards? What are your expectations? I suppose when you're bottom and you change your manager after 4 games, then that's just get out of there, I guess. And you take 17th at that point. But when you're 14th with 13 games to go, looking good, continue out that form, they definitely would have finished in the top half. God, another 27 points on at the end of the season, they would have been well in sort of the top 10 as opposed to the... what points did they actually got? We probably do that number, can't we? So you add another 15 points on, 67. Yeah, look, there you go. They would have been 10th if they continued out that form. And I'm sure Forest fans would have been very, very optimistic. Let's summarise. So early season chaos, huge player turnover and managerial change is just not the one, is it? You do not want to be starting the season. Look, you don't like seeing managers getting fired. Obviously, they do get fired. But looking at it now, if Chris Hughton had been there from the start of pre-season, then I dare say things would have been moving in a different direction than keeping Lamucci until October the 6th and 14 players in and 12 players out or whatever was the number. It's not the one. And we've done the Championship on this channel over and over again. Chaos very, very often. You know, okay, throw at me Watford changing their manager mid-season, but chaos more times than often predicts not good results on the pitch, does it? Houghton arrival, mixed beginning, some small tweaks in January. Then you get that impressive run and top half possible and eventual tail off to finish 17th. Again, I'm going broadly if you're a Forest fan and you want to offer specific on-pitch reasons. We often get comments in these type videos about injuries to players or someone losing form or a change in shape or whatever. Feel free to put those in. Just be kind. Remember, I'm doing 30 club reviews, so I can't go granularly and check the system that was played and every single injury that came at any point. So weigh in with your knowledge for sure. I've put there, 3rd worst attack and 5th best defence. That's very, very Chris Hughton, isn't it? He's got the defence sorted, it actually looks like already. Where's the goals against? Look at that. 45 goals against, 37 scored is the big issue. So, under Lamucci, the defence was good. That has maintained. Hughton is a good defensive manager. The team shape is always very solid. And there is this idea of let's be really, really, really hard to beat. The kind of Mick McCarthy type style. And it's got Hughton promoted before. As soon as he can put in some goal scorers and some creators into that team, then things can go in the right way. Obviously, if you couple the 5th best defence with perhaps the 10th best attack in the league, rather than the 3rd worst attack, which is obviously the 21st best attack in the league, then you're really going to be going somewhere, aren't you? Because you're going to be winning a lot of games and not conceding very many goals. But if you couple the 5th best defence with the 3rd worst attack, you end up with what we've got, which was only 37 goals scored. I believe Lewis Graham's top scorer was 6. So hopelessly bad in front of goal. But if your glass is half full, and I know you football supporters, your glasses will be half full often, can you fix the attacking side of the game? It can often just be a player or two, can't it? I mean, Joe Lolly carried a Forest attack and Lewis Graham before, and Lamucci had them in the top 6. So add in a little bit in terms of the pattern of play and actually getting some players forward and creating chances. And remember, chances can be created from set plays as well and long-range shots. It's not all about getting players up into the box and free-flowing total football. And we've seen that type of team do well in the Championship before. And give Hughton, Knockaert and Murray, I know he had them last season, but in their pomp at Brighton. And that was the recipe for promotion, wasn't it? So, who are those players next season for Forest? There you go. What next? Stability, improvement, FFP. What next is if he finds his Knockaert circa 2016 and Murray circa 2016. Look, that's easier said than done. I know it's very easy for me to say, find a forward attacking player, number 10, whatever you want to call it, that's going to get you 12 goals and 12 assists. Yeah. You know, go figure, easier said than done. And find you a striker that's going to score 20 goals. There's evidence that Lewis Graham can score 20 goals, but I know it's a bit of a divisive figure, isn't he, amongst football fans and probably amongst Forest fans. So we'll see what Hughton manages to do in regard solving that goal-scoring conundrum. Stability, improvement, FFP. Well, stability means make sure Chris Hughton's still the manager at the end of next season, unless he's doing absolutely terribly, which is probably not that likely, is it, given the size of Forest and Hughton's experience. Look, there's going to have to be players go out, and we mentioned FFP, and there may well need to be a sale, mightn't there? And it had to be cash last season. I know who it is this season. Is it Joe Worrell, who's the most saleable asset there at Forest? Don't think they're going to be raising 15 million quid like they did from Matt Cash or whatever the number was for Joe Worrell. So they may need to be clever with the sales. And again, it's who do they keep? And can they keep the basis of that solid defensive side to their game? And can they then add in some goals? We mentioned Brennan Johnson and Alex Myton, young players. Would they want James Garner back? It's almost like one or two key signings and not losing two players, or too many players rather, in terms of raising money. And it is fine margins here with, what were the goals? 37 for, 45 against. Okay, probably need 20 more goals and, you know, knock off 5 from the goals conceded. And then you're talking about a Hughton team that's going to be in the top half or better for most of the season. So make it sound quite simple with numbers, but you know where I'm going with this, don't you? So we will see in terms of young players coming through, who's going to be sold. FFP is an issue, and you look and you see 5 million quid we think dropped on Harry Arter and Umbe Soh. Scott McKenna. So there was money spent. But hey, they did raise money with Matt Cash, didn't they? And we never know what those undisclosed figures going between Olympiacos and Forest are, do we? So there we go. If your glass is half full, Forest will tweak a little bit, and the goals conceded will go down a little bit more. The goals scored will go up. Houghton will play the same system. He'll find the players to score the goals, and we know it's fairly simple. If Forest can reproduce that 15-game run where they got 27 points, multiply that 3 times. 27 times 3 would be 60, 81, and you still got 1 game spare as well. You know where Forest will be in the table, very, very high. That's if your glass is half full. If your glass is half empty, there's going to be another summer of chaos. FFP will kick in, a load of players will be sold, and probably Houghton will go in January, like has happened to Forest before. So it's very extreme, but it's not unreasonable of us to argue that, because Forest have done very extreme things in the past. It's a great club, but it can be a bit chaotic, let's just say, if anyone thinks I'm in any way disrespecting such a 2-time European Cup win in such a storied club as Forest. I'm not. I'm just telling how it's been for the past, God, well, you tell me, 5, 10 years, I guess, over at the City Ground. Anyway, I've had my say. Now you have yours. Please get your comments in, particularly if you're a Forest fan. Love to hear your opinion. Do remember, sometimes I get some real backhanded compliments that say, oh, not bad review for someone who doesn't support the team. Come on. What kind of a douchebag says that? I mean, and believe me, we get it said. I'm covering 30 teams. And believe me, sometimes you do get, if you want the outside perception, sometimes you need to hear it if you're a fan of a team from outside the bubble. Because I know we football supporters tend to live inside the bubble. So, yeah, feel free to give me backhanded compliments or insults, or whichever way that kind of works out. And of course, remember, I'm covering 30 teams for my YouTube channel here. So if you do want to add in extra details that I may not know, I do not know everything. Neither do you, but I'm very interested to hear your bits and bobs on Forest. Anyway, there you go. Nottingham Forest season review. For those of you who sometimes quite bluntly ask for your team, who we got left? Birmingham, Bristol City, Huddersfield. I will get them done. The best way for me to do that is the use of the word please in the comments, rather than saying, where's the Birmingham review? What have you done Huddersfield yet? I'll get round to it. Yeah, there's only a finite amount of times and a lot of teams to cover. Anyway, this is all about Forest, so get your comments in on Nottingham Forest. We'll get the other ones out soon enough. Thank you for watching. Over and out. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please hit the like button to see more videos from this channel. Hit the subscribe button, and to be notified every time we upload, ring the bell for those notifications to come through on your device. If you really want to support the channel and me as a content creator, I will be eternally grateful if you head over to the merch store and grab something, or support over on Patreon, patreon.com/Benjamin Bloom. Thank you for your time. Go and watch another video.